Dads of Reddit, what's your best don't tell your mother about this moment? When I was a little kid, my dad sat me on the kitchen counter and got 3 plates out of the cupboard. It was a dull day I guess, so he tried to entertain me. He started juggling them very well, then dropped one and smashed all 3. We quickly hid the evidence in the wheelie bin outside and he crouched down and said, "If your mum asks, just say you never saw them, Angel." So my mum comes home. Come dinner she notices our plate department is short. She asks where they are. My father says he doesn't know. She asks me and I say there's some broken plates in the bin outside, but I haven't seen the ones you're looking for. I tried my best, Dad. Sorry. With my own dad the rule was, if mom's not there to see the pizza delivered, it was never ordered. My dad was using a mini chainsaw to cut up some logs as a favor to the friend we were staying with on holiday. My brothers were helping him, whilst mum and I went to the shops. The last thing my mother says as we get in the car is, "Whatever you do, don't hurt yourself with that chainsaw." Dad scoffs at her. "I know what I'm doing. Don't fuss." Welp. When we get back an hour or 2 later, Dad is sporting a small but deep gash in his leg and both my brothers swear blind to my mother that he dropped a log and it scraped his leg. The brothers tell me later he dropped the chainsaw into his leg when he was trying to start it, so one of the teeth had caught his leg, and the very first thing he said was, "Don't tell your mother." Ow. I mean, she figured it out the moment she saw the neat cut on his leg, but she let him pretend for a few days. He only hurt himself because she said not to. Wives need to stop jinxing crap. Son who was told not to tell mom. I was about 8 going with my dad for the day to his Navy Reserve Center with him. He was a chief and was in uniform. About halfway through the drive there is a truck starts riding our tail, eventually passing us. 2-lane highway. As this guy passes he flips off my dad, presumably for driving too slow. This was rural Missouri and my dad didn't appreciate that too much, so he follows the truck about 5 miles off the highway in the wrong direction. The truck pulls over and my dad says to stay there. I was in the front seat and I get really nervous as this other driver gets out and is 6 feet 4 inches, 350 pounds and just looms over my dad. My dad walks right up to him unfazed by this and dresses the guy down for acting like that. The driver apologized and gets back in his truck. As my dad gets into the car he takes a deep breath and says, "That was the stupidest thing I have ever done." Chiefs do not give a frick about nothing. Source. Got to experience just how many fricks chiefs do not give in the Corps. Mine was when I took my kids to a country fair. As the event was so busy the people running it had opened up fields close by as overspill parking. On exiting the overspill car park I thought it would be fun to drive across the fields at speed. While doing this I hit something in the field and proceeded to go up on 2 wheels. It felt like a very long time we were on 2 wheels and I don't know why we didn't tip over onto the roof, but we didn't and eventually landed back on 4 wheels. My kids thought it was the most amazing thing ever. I personally aged about 10 years. It was the closest I've ever been to soiling myself and spent the whole way home driving like an old woman and thinking how I would have explained that on exiting a car park I ended up with my car on its roof. Sledding with my son and daughter, then 7 and 4, have a cool sled that allows steering, kind of a snow machine style front end. We were on a moderate hill, pretty wide open except a few apple trees off to the side. My son went by himself a bunch of times. I went down the hill a bunch of times with my daughter in front of me, but she wanted to go solo, just like her brother. I don't think it's a good idea. She insists. I say no. She starts to cry and I can see we are headed for full meltdown. Fine. I bring the sled to the widest part of the slope, point it downhill in the safest, mildest looking direction, put her on the sled, and tell her okay, just go straight. So it turns out, 4-year-olds don't always follow directions. I let her go. She picks up a little speed, and then jerks the steering and goes hard left, right toward the apple trees. Right. Turn right. Turn right. Watch the tree. Turn whack. She nails the apple tree, really the only object there was to hit on the entire slope, head on, with enough speed that the back end of the sled flips up, depositing her face first into the snow, hard. I'm terrified she's broken her neck. I just got my daughter killed. I'm frozen with fear for a moment, and then I start sprinting down the slope towards her. I have not taken 3 steps when she pops up, just absolutely giggling wildly, total peals of delight, and yells, "That was fun, can I go again?" Not a dad, but this story is about mine. When I was about 5 I really wanted to shave my legs like a big girl, so one night, I'm taking a bath and I grabbed mom's razor, started shaving, ended up slicing chunks of skin out of my shins. Like, I still have dents in my shins from this almost 20 years later. Anyway, I'm freaking out because I know I'll be in trouble if mom finds out. Enter dad. He came in to check on me as parents do, and finds me crying in blood red bath water. I immediately beg him not to tell mom as I explain what I did. He says okay, gets me out of the tub, bandages my legs, and never tells mom. She didn't find out until I was 13 and she was teaching me how to shave and I told her the story. Thanks dad. A few years back me and a buddy are in IKEA. There's this dad in front of us online in the food area. He has 3 kids, a toddler old enough to stand next to him, another toddler he's carrying and a newborn in a carriage. Mind you, he's trying to grab 4/5 meals and he had these 2 kids tugging at him. I guess his mind blanks and he moves on while leaving the baby in the carriage to stare at me and my buddy. We look at the baby and then him, and the baby is just staring at us like, what the frick? This guy pays and is slowly walking off. Me. Hey sir. Father turns around. I point at the baby and we all look at him. Father, frick. Please don't tell my wife. He grabs the kid and dips. LOL. LOL, how long would it have taken him to realize? My 3-year-old grandson fell and hurt knee while at park with his dad. Knee was bleeding and to get grandson's attention off hurt son asked him what he wanted for lunch. Grandson answered wings, so Hooters being the closest wing place with a bathroom for tending to hurt knee, that's where they went. Needless to say, waitresses made big deal of 3-year-old with hurt knee. Later mom asked WH should they had for lunch. Grandson says wings and they have big boobies too. Explaining was done. Marriage survives. This is written exactly how a grandparent would tell this story and I love it. Not a dad, but something my dad did. When I was 13 my dad was forced to sell his 86 Grand National due to being laid off for several months. That car was his pride and joy. The night before he sold it we took it to get a car wash, and as we're about to head back home he tosses me the key saying there's no better time to learn how to drive. After the basic which pedal does what, he talked me into opening it up to 70 miles per hour on some side streets before we got too close to the house and had to switch seats so my mom wouldn't find out. Coolest experience of my childhood. Oh dang, that hurts. 86 Grand National is a bitchin' car. Glad you got to experience it before he had to sell. Son here. Got caught as an accomplice of a friend who was using credit card number generators to buy stuff online, before modern credit card security was widespread. As a provider of moral support, I got a kick-ass fingerboard from it. My friend thought that buying a computer and sending it to his aunt's place was the smartest idea ever until the computer company called to advertise more stuff to buy alongside the computer. Friend got caught and we were unfortunate enough to all be at his place at the time. On the ride home my dad basically said, "Why did you do it? Do you understand that it was wrong? Do you know how much trouble you would have been in if you had been caught by the police and not by friend's parents? Let's not tell your mother about this." Not a dad myself, but one time me and my dad were messing around and he kicked my bedroom door down by accident. We rushed to the hardware store. Fixed it by the time my mom got home. Never told her once. To this day she hasn't noticed anything off about it. He kicked my bedroom door down by accident. Rot. I took my older 2 sons to a baseball game at Yankee Stadium a little while back. They were 6 and 5 at the time. We were waiting in line at a concession stand and the boys were both right next to me. We were moving up in the line and I reached down to grab my 5-year-old son's hand, but he wasn't there. I asked my older son if he saw where his brother went and he didn't. So I went into full panic mode. I was screaming his name, asking strangers if they saw him, etc. I honestly thought he was gone. I ended up finding him and everything was fine. He left because he was looking for a bathroom, but I felt horrible. We had about a 2-hour ride home and I kept reminding them that this is probably something we should keep between us. They agreed. We got back home and they proudly ran to their mom to tell her that I lost the 5-year-old. She surprisingly wasn't too upset. We played GTA together while his daughter was playing on the floor. I was a bit unsure it was a good idea, but she was young and we didn't think she'd absorb any of it. Skip ahead a few weeks to when she starts kindergarten and is playing on the playground. She immediately runs for the boy playing in the plastic toy car, a sit-in one with doors that you move by walking your feet through a hole in the bottom. She runs to it, opens the door and pulls the boy out of it, CJ style. We play games when she isn't there now. That's amazing. When my little sister and I were young, we were home alone with my dad. I guess we had been suspiciously quiet, so he poked his head out of his office and found us under the kitchen table playing lotion with a jar of peanut butter. We were just sitting there under the table spreading peanut butter all over our arms and legs. LOL. My dad, he has a pretty good sense of humor, decided to go get the video camera, one of those old giant ones that used a full-sized VHS tape, instead of telling us to stop. And in the video I turn and look dead into the camera and earnestly say, "Don't tell mom." It's pretty awesome because I was so young that I don't have a clear memory of it. I've just seen the video enough times that I have like an artificial memory of it, and it's one of my favorites. That's great that you have it on tape also. Good call on the artificial memory bit. Happens to all of us, but not all of us know it's happening. I'm divorced and my ex and I co-parent 2 toddlers, young children 6 and 4 years old. She's quite religious, Catholic, and I am not. This past spring, after talking it over with his mom and unbeknownst to me, our 6-year-old decided to give up chocolate for Lent. One weekend, when the kids were with me, I made chocolate chip cookies for them. 6 had one after dinner and, after he happily scarfed it down, he confessed to me that he was not supposed to have chocolate until Lent was over. I explained to him that it was okay, everyone makes mistakes, etc., and told him that we could keep it a secret and not tell his mom. Fast forward to when I drop them off with their mom. They get out of the car and the first thing my 4-year-old says to their mom is, "Dad gave 6 a chocolate chip cookie. That little snitch didn't say a peep about that cookie all weekend. He just logged it away and knew he was going to rat out his dad and his brother the first chance he got." 4 is the one who knocks. My older kid loves Chick-fil-A. Loves it. Mom is not a fan of the kids eating there because one time he and his sister had a late Chick-fil-A dinner. All the salt made them thirsty and both kids drank tons of water, and both wet the bed that night. So of course when my wife goes out of town with our daughter, I take him to Chick-fil-A and we have the "don't tell mom" conversation. But then I'm thinking, hey, I want to make sure he gets the difference between this kind of secret and other kinds of secrets. So I talk to him about how no matter who asks you to keep a secret, it's always okay to tell your own parents, etc, etc, and you would never get in trouble. So fast forward a couple months and mom says something about Chick-fil-A and how long it's been since he's eaten there, and he just nonchalantly says the last time was the secret time with daddy. So busted. I walked right into that, but for the right reasons. Of all the posts in this thread, this is the most dad lie. Good on you. My kids are jerks. I have tried the "don't tell mom" thing on small things that would be easy to get away with, but they are terrible with secrets. Mom, Dad let us do this after you said no. I get yelled at a lot. LOL. It's probably time for the Jerry Maguire talk. Help me help you. Then watch the light bulb go off in their heads. Kid here. Once, shortly after my father got his first cell phone, I was in the car with just him. Suddenly his phone rings, and it's just making this annoying clucking chicken sound. He'd rigged a custom ringtone for my mother's cell. Yeah, I was never allowed to tell her about that. I fell out of my dad's car one time. My mom was a nurse, so she was working Christmas Eve. My dad took me, my older brother, and my older sister around the neighborhood to put out luminaries. Long story short, he had us all sitting on the open trunk hatch on his SUV. I was in the middle. My brother and sister were on the outside. He was playing around and decided that he was going to pop the clutch. He told my brother and sister to hold on to me, so when he floored it I fell out. I rolled like 10 feet after I fell out. My mom didn't find out for years. My psycho ex-stepmom was vegan and so restrictive about food she locked it up. My dad would get home from work with donuts and wake me and my brother up to eat them while watching laughing or reruns of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Your dad sounds great minus his taste in wives. During a particularly snowy winter, my dad took my brother and I out into the garden to make snowmen and igloos. We had been strictly instructed by mum before she left for the shops to have no snowball fights. She was worried about stones from the recently resurfaced drive getting embedded in one and injuring someone. Of course, pushing each other over into snowdrifts quickly escalated into all-out war, and we were soon hurling snowballs at each other. My dad whipped one at me just as I dodged, for it to go sailing past, straight through the glass in the living room window. Dad called a buddy who was a glazier to haul out and get it fixed. We were each promised a raise in our allowance never to tell mum, with the promise of a bonus that if she ever found out, it would be one of us, not dad. That broke the window. My dad accidentally played pee on the living room TV. Continue. My dad used to take us for bike rides. He borrowed my mum's old Schul Huffy without asking. On this particular bike ride he took his cat walking a little too far. He completely fricked up the back of the bike, and it didn't look much like a Huffy anymore. We both agreed not to tell my mum, and he snuck it back into the garage at the end of the bike ride. My mum noticed that we were back home, and asked us if we would like to go on another bike ride. This time she wanted to join. We both replied we are tired, because we didn't want her to go grab her bike and find out it was completely fricked. But she insisted. She started walking to the garage to grab her bike, but my dad had stopped her dead in her tracks, and right then and there I witnessed the saddest little confession. Cat walking, wheelie type thing, but standing up I guess, for the others wondering. My son fell about 15 feet at the playground, landing flat on his back. It knocked the wind out of him, and he was scared, but completely unharmed. I knew she would be terrified and worry about a concussion, and likely not let him play on that apparatus in the future. I calmed him down, ran through some quick questions to evaluate for head injury, and brushed him off. He was back at the top before she even turned around to notice. I had this happen to me in elementary school and the person I was with left me lying in the dirt and went home. Mine is more of a don't tell your dad moment. My husband is the overprotective one, and my boys are, well, boys. They're twins, and raise heck on a regular basis. One of my husband's rules is no playing near the stairs. Any stairs. He's convinced that they will kill themselves playing. Enter the sled. We took the mattress from the spare bedroom and put it at the bottom of the stairs, upright. Then took one of the plastic sleds you get in the winter for snow, and slid down the stairs for an afternoon. The boys got a kick out of sliding down and hitting their face into the mattress to stop. Yes, they wore helmets, and yes, we were careful. The deal was, they didn't tell dad, and then none of us got in trouble. So far, so good. OMG, a sled. I woke up one morning to find my 3 boys using a mattress from their bunk bed, 4 inches foam from IKEA, to slide down the stairs. They weren't arguing or fighting, so I just took a video and let them keep going. My family owns a company that builds parts for race cars, and naturally we also race. Well, dad and I do. About 8-9 years ago when I was around 14 or so, we were headed out of state to my cousin's wedding. While on a long straight stretch without warning, dad floored his Camaro and we ended up somewhere north of 100 miles per hour. Granted, that's not too crazy, but at 14 it was one of the coolest thing me and dad had ever done, and it was a really cool bonding experience for us. Being that my mom is pretty overprotective, dad cleared his GPS memory and told me it was between us. Actually, my dad's moment. He used to chop wood for the fire, and one day I thought I would like to help, so he set up some wood on the block and showed me how to hold the axe. I lifted the axe and brought it down hard, whereupon it missed both the wood and the block easily, and fortunately also missed my tender little foot by the barest whisker. My dad and I just looked at each other. He didn't have to actually say the words, but that was definitely the end of my lumberjack aspirations. Fed my dog the rest of my hot dog the other day. He freaking loved it, and he can't tell anybody a goddamn thing. As far as mommy knows, nothing happened. That's how we like it. In dog we trust. Kids' loyalty is questionable. Dogs are on team dad all day. You've been visited by a dog. It's a regular dog but he's a good boy. If you comment pet 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 he'll let you pet him. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.